Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching One TV News in English at 5. I'm Yanni Moutsios. Today's top stories. Next round of talks between Russia and Ukraine today in Istanbul. Moscow has dismissed the possibility of talks between Russia President Vladimir Putin and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky for the time being. Ukraine is willing to become neutral and compromise over the status of the eastern Donbas region as part of a peace deal, President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Sunday. Prime Minister convenes cabinet ministers to assess food supplies amid Ukrainian war. COVID restrictions due to be abolished in April, government says, but not the use of face coverings. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in a telephone call on Sunday that a ceasefire and better humanitarian conditions were needed following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, his office said in a statement. It added they agreed the next round of peace committee talks between Ukraine and Russia would be held in Istanbul. Earlier on Sunday, Ukrainian negotiator David Arakhamia said the next round of face-to-face talks between Ukraine and Russia will take place in Turkey on March 28th till 30th. Coming up next, Prime Minister convinced cabinet ministers to assess food supplies amid Ukrainian war. As Ukraine negotiates to end Russia's invasion, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Sunday he is willing to discuss remaining a neutral country if Ukraine is given security guarantees from other states during an interview between Zelensky and Russian reporters that Russia's government attempted to stop news outlets from broadcasting. Zelensky said Ukraine is ready to consider security guarantees and neutrality and non-nuclear status, according to Reuters and the Financial Times translations of the interview, which was conducted in Zelensky's native language of Russian. Any proposals on neutrality would need to be put to a vote and agreed upon by the Ukrainian people, Zelensky said. Zelensky also added he will not discuss Russian President Vladimir Putin's demand that Ukraine demilitarize, which was one of Russia's justification for launching an invasion over a month ago. Despite recent reports that Ukraine has gone on the offensive against struggling Russian forces in some areas, Zelensky said Ukraine doesn't plan on attempting to recapture all Russian-occupied land using military force and hopes to reach a compromise on the status of two pro-Russian breakaway states in eastern Ukraine, according to Reuters. Zelensky pointed to what he deemed a humanitarian catastrophe in the besieged city of Mariupol, telling reporters it was impossible to get food, water and medicine to civilians as Russian forces have blocked all entries and exits to the city. Volodymyr Zelensky is set to address the Greek House of Commons on Thursday in the afternoon, Ukrainian ambassador on Greece Sergei Shutenko confirmed earlier today. This is what Ukraine's president said in an interview to independent Russian journalists.
Гарантии безопасности и нейтралитет, безъядерный статус нашего государства, мы готовы на него идти. Это самый главный пункт. Это был первый принципиальный пункт для Российской Федерации, насколько я помню. И насколько мне помнится, что они из-за этого начали войну.
Now, French President Emmanuel Macron on Sunday distanced himself from comments by US President Joe Biden, who called Vladimir Putin a butcher who cannot remain in power. Macron told broadcaster France 3 that his focus was on helping broker a ceasefire between Kyiv and Moscow, followed by a complete withdrawal of Russian troops through diplomacy. If we want to do that, we can't escalate either in words or actions, Macron said. Biden reportedly went off script and made the remarks Saturday during a speech in Poland as the conflict moved into its second month. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power, Biden said, triggering a rebuke from the Kremlin, with a spokesperson warning that personal insults would do little to help bilateral relations. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken has since played down any suggestions that Washington is seeking regime change in Russia. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov quickly hit back, saying that's not for Biden to decide. The president of Russia is elected by Russians. Here's what President Biden said in his speech in Poland.
Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain.
Coming up next, COVID restrictions due to be abolished in April, government says, but not the use of face coverings. Greek diplomats are working closely with the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the preparation of Greece on the participation of Greece on the humanitarian aid mission in Mariupol. French side will coordinate the execution of the mission amid heavy shelling and bombing in the wider area. Prime Minister Mitsotakis chaired a cabinet minister meeting earlier today to discuss potential shortages on the food supply chain caused by the war in Ukraine. According to sources, Greek government is closely watching the changes taking place in the supply sector and acts in a preemptive manner. Rising prices are considered to be an international issue rather than a Greek one, experts claim. Grocery owners and food suppliers are obliged to file in their product inventory in order to deal with any potential shortages, or else they may face a fine of up to €100,000. Trial of the infamous actor and director Petros Philippidis, accused of one case of statutory rape and two others attempted rapes, commenced today with the defendant present in the Court of Justice. Trial was briefly interrupted following objections of one of the defendant's lawyer, Kiki Bakirtzidou, due to the request of two of the victims to testify with closed doors. Lawyers of the victims said the request was made in order to protect the two women who have been mentally traumatized. Philippidis' lawyers said that the victims, through they have exposed themselves, are entitled to comment on the court, and that will actually lead them to shedding tears in the aftermath. Victims' lawyers reacted to the defendant's remarks and accused Bakirtzidou of disrespecting the victims. Dimitrakopoulos, defendant's second lawyer, said that ruling a public trial is publicity and that the case aired everywhere in the morning TV shows, whereas the case file was made available in digital copies. Some of the victims have been interviewed and went public on their own and questioned their intentions regarding their mental burden and anxiety. Dimitrakopoulos noted that there are numerous news stories that are abusive towards his client. Philippidis showed up in the mixed jury court of Athens today to face charges for rape repeatedly, as well as two attempted rapes. His wife, Elpida Ninou, and his son arrived at the Court of Justice at 9 a.m. Philippidis remains in custody since last July, and it is the first time he shows up in court since the trial commenced, claiming health issues. Government is expected to make final decisions on easing out or totally removing any restrictions on COVID-19 in April, following recommendations of the Experts Committee. The latest epidemic wave of Omicron 2 is constantly under supervision, and the health national system is slowly but steadily decompressing. Positive epidemic conditions, as well as the vaccination percentage of civilians in conjunction with the weather conditions, have prompted experts to recommend easing out of the strict restrictions on COVID and return to normality for all. COVID patients may also receive treatment with antivirus pills made by Pfizer and Merck, which are available on doctor's prescription. Vaccination certificate will continue to be a useful health document rather than a health passport, according to government sources. However, health experts raise their concerns over the abrupt cancellation of the health passport, claiming that it is too early to completely ease its use as a prerequisite. Most experts committee members are favouring the use of face covering indoors, especially should the health passport is not considered mandatory. Passengers on public transport and visitors in elderly care houses will continue to wear face masks. That's all from us for now. Next news update in Greek at 6 o'clock. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.